Welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're already almost in June, which means it's getting super hot here in Arizona. It's 104 today. So I'm super excited to bring this content to you guys. This is the first time we have ever done this topic. We've been doing this for clients for about four and a half years with multiple listings. So I'm really excited to share everything we've learned with you and hopefully get you guys thinking a little bit differently today. So I'm going to give, we had about 205 people register. So I'm going to give just another minute or so until we get started. So that way anyone that is struggling, wants to jump on the live can do so. And I see we are very well represented with all of the various trades. We got a lot of HVAC, but we got irrigation, hurricane impact. Love that. Septic and drain cleaning, plumbing, carpet, tile, upholstery, restoration, electrical. I think I hit, we got someone adding generators soon. Amazing. So you guys should get a ton of value from this content today. There will be, if you have to jump off early, there will be a replay available. That replay will go out. It should be even later today. So you should have that. So that way, if you want to take this content, share it with anyone, you can. All right, let's get started. So the year was 2019, and I had just been hired to for an HVAC business that was about $1 million in revenue to double it regularly, meaning year over year on a shoestring budget in a market of only about 70,000 people. And that was the entire county we served. We didn't have much of a budget for paid ads, no room for mistakes. So I did what any scrappy operator would do. Oh, I apologize. My camera's turning off. My marketing team's going to yell at me. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. I apologize about that. So I did what anyone in my position would do when you don't have a big budget is I dug through our data. At the time we were using Service Titan, and I wanted to answer a really simple question. Where do our best customers come from? Because at the end of the day, that's what's really important, right? Is where are we getting our best customers and how can we get more of them? And honestly, by digging through the data in all the various marketing campaigns, I found something that honestly shocked me. The leads that came through Google Maps, just regular, boring, organic leads, had average tickets nearly $800 higher than any other channel. And even better yet, these people gave us very little price resistance. And even better than that is because we found this out and we really honed in on this strategy, we regularly had 15 to 20% net profits, and we were able to scale to about $4 million in 2 years and keep the company very profitable so we could continue to add trucks and training and all nice things for our team. So I want to ask you guys before I really get into the meat of the content here, why do you think that is? Why do you think the tickets were higher coming from Google Maps? Put that in the chat. And then while you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and continue. And apologize. My team is going to be in the comments section, so I'm not going to be looking at all the comments. We will have time for questions at the end. So the truth for home service businesses is that local wins. Being fast wins, and smart systems scale. If your Google presence doesn't show up in the next town over, your competitor is going to. So today, I'm not here to give you hacks. I'm here to give you a repeatable system, step by step, that can scale with you as you decide to scale your business. Because you guys as contractors don't need more fluff. Between tariffs, price increases, refrigerant changes, and rebate programs that change faster than the weather, you guys just deserve some easy wins. All right. So the reason that those Google Maps leads converted better, had higher tickets and less price or less resistance from the homeowner is very simple. People trust what they find themselves. Think about this when you go to, let's say, Costco. This plays out in real life. So when you go to Costco, you go and spend, most people walk out with a big cart, hundreds of dollars, if not more, of goods and things that they bought, usually bought more than they think they would. But as soon as we get past the checkout and we head towards the door where they check the receipts, we ignore the salespeople selling services like they had a disease or like they're contagious. We literally do one of these, we walk right by and we don't even pay attention to them. It's because we want to buy as consumers, and your homeowners are no different, but we don't want to be sold. We want it to be our decision that we chose your company to do business with. So when you show up right in search, not just in your hometown, but every city you serve, you win trust, clicks, and more book jobs. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that without breaking Google's rules and setting up shady PO boxes, which most of you guys probably should know at this point are not with Google's guidelines. So here's what we're going to cover today. Why one Google business profile isn't enough anymore and why it's costing you business. How to set up and verify additional listings the right way. How to manage and optimize them without getting suspended. Which companies or who should be adding a second GBP listing. Why multi-trade companies absolutely need more than one Google business profile listing. And there were several of you in the comments I saw already that do multiple trades. This is going to be really important for you. And then common issues that I see when you have multiple listings and something either isn't getting done right or in how you can avoid those issues. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Joshua Crouch. I've worn nearly every hat in the HVAC world: CSR, technician, branch manager, operations manager, comfort advisor, you name it. Before starting Relentless Digital, I ran marketing and operations for contracting companies just like yours. So when I say I get how hard it is to rank outside your backyard, I have actually lived that frustration. So what changed for me wasn't more ads or a bigger budget. It was learning how to strategically scale Google business profiles the right way. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So if this is you and you always feel like there's almost like a wall when you go to the next town over and you can't rank, drop me in the comments so we can see how many people are struggling with this, because this struggle is something that we hear from contractors a lot. And I'm curious if it's happened for you. Oliver says me, John, Laura, Jerry, Melinda, Jason. So a lot of people. And that's why you guys are here, right? So that was kind of a leading question. I knew the answer to that one. But we're going to change that today. And we're going to change it by being strategic. So we're going to talk about how to do this and how not to break Google's rules, because the last thing people want to do is get multiple listings set up and have a ton of issues with suspensions and spending a week or several weeks with Google support ticketing system. Believe me, I'm in the middle of a ticket right now that Google's not answering. So it is painful. And we want to try to eliminate as much pain as possible so we can set this up and we can just keep growing our businesses. So the truth is that your competitors are taking up space in your service area. Private equity is purchasing companies, and if this is you guys, put a 1 in the comments. If private equity has purchased a company and they keep the old company's GBP listing, even if they're not at that location, and they're now able to not only outspend you, but they're also strategically outplaying you on what we'll call a chess match here, or the chess field. So it's time to get strategic and grow your presence. So when we talk about Google Business Profile setup, there's really some things that we want to do ahead of time. And if anything that you guys prepare for. The more preparation you do in the beginning, the easier the process is. A lot of people come to us and they already have multiple listings and it's a mess. They're either too close together or they have a lot of service area business listings, meaning they have their home, a technician's home, a friend's home, their other, an acquaintance's home, and they have all of these service area business listings. Like we had a plumber as a client who had 5 of these, not one legitimate physical office, but 5 service area business listings, and it was an absolute nightmare to manage. So that's what we're going to talk about next, is the actual setup and making sure that you have all of the proper things you need in order to get a new listing verified before we get into the strategy of where to find a location. So if you understand how to set it up and manage it, it consistently will generate leads. And I will also share with you guys some stories and case studies along the way for other clients that we have done this with over the years. So why is 1 GBP no longer enough? Because back 5 years ago when we started Relentless Digital, we could rank for quite a large service area. And the problem is Google's had updates through the years where they've tightened their proximity filters or their distance filters because they want to deliver super local results when people are typing in near me searches. And near me searches, and this isn't part of the slide, but near me searches have expanded tremendously. A lot of people use near me searches. If you ever have access to your Google Search Council or your marketing company, ask them. I can promise you that most of you guys, near me searches are probably 5 or 6 of the top 10 search terms. So people don't, a lot of you guys search like AC repair city, plumbing city. A lot of people don't use the city name anymore because they know Google knows where they're at. Our devices all are logged into the internet and the IP address and Google Maps. They know exactly where you're at and where you're trying to search for that. So even if you just type in AC repair without near me or a city, you're gonna get local results to wherever you are sitting right now. So talked about Google, they have prioritized proximity over reach. I use the analogy of a rubber band. So our job as marketers and your marketing team or your internal team, our job is to try to expand how we rank on Google Maps and get as far out as we can. Google is they're shrinking that rubber band through proximity filters. And if you really think about it from a business decision, Google makes most of their money from advertising. So if they shrink your local presence, your organic presence enough, you have to pay for more local service ads. You have to pay for more Google ads, or you have to go somewhere else and spend more money. So our way of combating this is really to be smart and strategic in being in the markets that make the most sense for us. And that rubber band effect, now we do have some clients that rank further than 8 miles away, but typically in a semi-competitive market, you're only going to be able to rank about 5 to 8 miles away from your location. So this gets into the old adage of when back before all the digital stuff came about, one of the most important adages in business was location, location, location. And you guys have probably heard that at some point in your life. What that means now is your digital location. Are you by where your customers are or where the right customers are? Because if your location is downtown in a big city and it's not the right clients for you, you are going to struggle to grow and get the right customers because they're just not the right customers around the proximity of your building. Every new GBP is a new ranking opportunity, and you're only going to rank for one trade no matter how hard you try, unless you are in a very rural area and don't have a lot of competition. And this is where I mentioned the multi-trade companies. This is going to be important for you as we get further down in this presentation today. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about how to set these up without getting suspended, because if you're like me, getting Google Business Profile suspensions are literally probably the reason I lost all of my hair because it is painful. It takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of times you're just kind of feels like you're literally speaking to the wall that's right behind me and nobody's talking back to you. It's kind of you're just shouting into the void, help me, help me, help me, and Google just doesn't care. At least it feels that way. So What's great about the way you have to verify Google Business Profile listings now is video verification has leveled the playing field. Back, and I don't know if you guys have dealt with this or been in, if some of you guys have been in business longer, of 3 to 5 years ago, spam on the Google Business Profile on their listings was rampant. There was all kinds of people setting up hundreds or thousands of listings using postcards, because postcards are really easy to get access to. You literally set up your GBP, got a postcard, you were done. And it was super simple. But the problem is, just like anything, people game the system and they figure out a way to maximize it for their own benefit. So marketing companies were actually setting up fake Google Business Profile listings, and then they were reselling the leads. So they would get the call in to a call center, and then they would disperse those leads to whoever their local connection was. So you would call ABC Heating, but it would actually go to XYZ Heating, and which is not a great user experience for the homeowner and is very shady. But that's why Google moved to video verification. But video verification is a pain in the butt, because there are certain things that you have to make sure that you set up properly in order to pass video verification. And sometimes video verification, Google's backend AI system that reviews those videos, doesn't do a good job and it breaks. So there are some pain points there, but it is much work. It creates a system where once you get verified, you rarely get suspended after that. So here's some key rules before we get into the verification. And I'm going to have a resource for you guys to download, swipe, and deploy, which is going to walk you through step by step, because we're not going to have enough time on today's presentation to walk through all of those steps, but you guys will be able to swipe and deploy that and save it for later. So the key rules that you need to remember is that you must either serve customers at your address or be a true service area business. You cannot use virtual offices or PO boxes. Now, there are people out there that say that they can get them approved, and I have seen ways to get those approved, and I get that there is a lot of benefit to trying to do this. One, it's much cheaper than getting a small office space. But in my experience, these listings, it's very easy for me to tell that, like, if you go look up the address for one of these virtual offices and you see 10 or 20 other businesses with the exact same address on page 1 of Google, that is not very difficult for their system to figure out. So whenever they tighten their filters or make an update, you're going to be at risk for suspension, which again is very painful. And then we want to be consistent with using our name, address, and phone number, which you guys probably already know. So I'm actually going to skip forward here. So this is, excuse me. Hang on, why is there we go. Sorry, my thing was open in a new tab. I think my team actually put a link on those things. So this is the downloadable swipe file for video verification. This is going to lead you to our resources page. We have other downloadable resources for Apple Maps, outbound text communication, marketing automation, and a whole bunch of other things. So feel free. We have a Google Business Profile optimization checklist in there as well, which is super thorough. Download as many of those as you want. I think the only thing we ask for is your email. So if you don't want to get emails from us, just unsubscribe after you get it. But this is something I would absolutely keep on hand. Download it, save it somewhere. So that way, if and when you go ahead and get a second or third listing, you have this handy and you know exactly what you need to do in order to get set up properly. All right, now this is going to get into the meat and potatoes of today's presentation. Is what research should you be doing before signing for a new GBP listing? Because a lot of people are like, I just want to rank over here. Well, why? Is it the right customer? Is that the right market? How competitive is that market? And then, of course, with the research, we have tools at our disposal that can make this really easy and fast for us. And a lot of this is what our team does for our existing clients, is we help them with this research, and we have a whole SOP internally that we use. And I'm going to give you guys some of that information, but I'm also going to give you guys some other prompts and things that you guys can use in ChatGPT to also help you speed up this process a little bit. So when we want to grow, there's several things that we need in order to make this work. One, and this is, I'll call this my opinion, but most marketers that have gone through and tried service area business listings or some other very shady kind of ways of getting a listing, physical office remains by far the safest and best long-term way to do this. Now, this does not mean you need to buy a building, get a huge warehouse. You need an office that somebody could work out of. So that could look like 100, 150, 200 square foot office in, those buildings where they have like a bunch of dentists and lawyers and things like that. In a building like that would work just fine. So you don't need to go spend $2,000 a month. If you're in California, you're probably on the hook for at least $2,000 if you're going to get an office space. So keep that in mind. California just doesn't have a whole lot of cheap office space, but you want to get a physical office. You also are going to need some sort of way to get reviews to multiple listings. With that, that means you're going to need the review volume to support having multiple listings. This is a key one because a lot of times people come to us and they might have 50 or 70 reviews on their main profile, been in business 3 to 4 years, and then they want to add a second listing right away. And they want to do that so they can expand their business and grow. But the problem is if you don't have the review volume to support a second, third, fourth, fifth listing, all you're going to really do is dilute your reviews across those listings. So having a great system in place, which if you guys go to our YouTube channel, one of our more recent videos talks all about how to get more reviews more consistently. Our YouTube channel is called Trades Marketing Mastery. If you guys want to subscribe to that, we're putting out content every single week. You're also going to want to have relevant website pages. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in depth because as you get more listings, you need to make sure that the website URL that's connected to that Google business profile matches both the primary category and the city that listing is located in. And I'll get into some more details about that soon. You want to have some rank tracking tools. I'm going to share some screenshots today, and I'll share some of the tools that I know of in the market. There are a lot of them. So I'll share some of those with you guys. Usually those are they're pretty inexpensive, especially if it's just for your business. And then obviously I've already shared the document for video verification that you guys can repurpose. So if you guys want to do this along with me, feel free, open up another tab on your computer, or if you have multiple screens, open up a screen and open up ChatGPT or whatever large language model you want to use. You will need to make sure that whatever large language model you use has access to the internet. So if you're on Claude, but you don't have the version that gets to the internet, you're going to want to make sure you have something that goes to the internet. Or you can use, if you want to use Google Gemini, which is free, you can use that as well. So use this prompt. I need help determining which city will be the best location for a new office for my whatever type of company you are. The options are, give it a few options in your market. And so that way it can pull some data and give you a list. So that way we can do continued research and see which market is best for you. Please put the following information in a table: population of each city, median household income, number of single family homes, how many, whatever industry you're in, how many contractors, offices are within the city limits. This data may not always pull, but sometimes it does. And then the median property value. What we're trying to do with this is not only just expand with multiple listings, but as I mentioned early in the presentations, be very strategic with how we do this. We want to get into a market where our customers can afford our services and actually want our services. For example, in Arizona, where I'm located, there's a lot of new houses. Now, the median income is great, but there's a lot of new housing development. So it may or may not be the best market depending on what you do. So if you're in new construction or you're in something that that would be of value to you, that would make sense. For a service business, it probably wouldn't make sense to be right where we're at because it's kind of boom town with a lot of new houses. You kind of want to go to wherever, like especially like electricians, you're looking for old electrical panels. You want to be in a market where the houses are older, so you have more opportunity there. So this is the outcome, at least the outcome that I got when I ran this. It says, based on the available data, here's a comparison of the 5 cities in Arizona, and it puts it into a table. Now you can see that the number of HVAC contractors and number of single family homes doesn't always pull. I'm going to show you another way to get that information. But what you are going to get is a population, a median household income, and the median property value. Now you can see, and I picked these strategically because I wanted to show you the difference between, because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to go to the big market because that's where more people are, right? It makes sense in theory, but does it make sense to go into Phoenix when the median property value is $260,000 and maybe we're on the high end for our market as far as our pricing and services, when people that could afford us might be more in Gilbert, Queen Creek, or Scottsdale because the median property value is higher. Most likely those people just would rather have pay someone to do the service that we need. So this is why we want to do research, and we want to have some options here so we can actually make a great decision for our business. So as far as the data that we couldn't find, the next step that you would do is open up data.census.gov. And in order to find out how many single family homes, and I'm assuming by doing this, guys, I'm assuming most of you guys are residential. Okay. So if you're not, this wouldn't be as relevant to you, but I'm assuming most are residential if they want to add multiple GBP listings. So you want to type in city, state, single family homes, just like that. Now, this is going to be a little more manual. You're going to have to add this data to the table, but this is what the data should look like on the census site. So you're going to get population, median household income, their level of education, how many housing units, which is great to know for residential, how many households, and then, of course, a little bit of the demographic of that market. And this is what it should look like. So you can pull this data, put it into that table, and that way you have all of your data in one place. So now we want to find a new location. So we want to go back to ChatGPT and we want to type in this prompt or something very similar to this. Based on the data available and armed with the information that my customers are ideally are a 2-income earning household in middle to upper middle class, can you rank these 5 cities in order of which would be best for my ideal customer? And again, it took maybe 15 seconds, 20 seconds to write this prompt. The census thing that lasted probably 5 to 8 minutes for me to pull a couple different cities. So far we're maybe about 10 minutes into the research part of this, and you should be able to get something that looks like this. So based on that list, as I mentioned, even though Phoenix and Mesa are bigger and have more homeowners, more customers potential, based on that prompt, they mentioned Gilbert as the best fit because of the high median income, strong family-oriented community, and many dual income households. Now, when I go back, let me go back real quick. Now, this information in this prompt, put what you feel best about your business. If you are more of a value-based company that gets by on selling a lot, and you're more on the volume, change that to match what you want for your customer. Okay. So just make sure that you tweak this don't copy and paste this if that is not your business model. Use it and then tweak it for your own business. And then you should get something that looks similar to this. Next, this part is manual, and you can still use the internet for it, but it's manual because now that we know that Gilbert, Queen Creek, and Scottsdale are the best locations for us, we need to go out and try to find office space. And you can either do that through realtors or if just searching the internet for potential office spaces. But once you find a location, I would find at least 2 or 3 locations in every single market that are open. There's a bit more research you want to do. And this is a lot of what our team usually does, because usually our clients come to us and they have a couple office spaces that they've found, and they ask us to help them with the competitive research portion of this. So once those locations are found, we need to do a little more searching. I'm actually going to walk you through this. I think I have this on the next slide. So You're going to want to open google.com/maps. You can do it on desktop or your phone. It's a little easier to do on desktop. And you're going to want to type in that address. I don't actually have that slide on here, but you type in the address, and what you're going to see in the middle of your screen, you'll see the map pin of where that office is. Then what you want to do is take the screen. You want to zoom out so you get a broader picture of the area. And then you want to type in whatever the most important keyword is for you. In this example, you can see I chose AC repair, Mesa, Arizona. And what's going to happen is, so you need to remember exactly where that map pin is, because that map pin is going to disappear when you hit enter. And then once you hit enter, you're going to see the competitive landscape here. So we're going to see who our competitors are, how many reviews do they have. And typically, since it's your market, you probably know if they're a good competitor or not a good competitor. But what we really want to make sure of, because I mentioned Google Maps is all about proximity and how close and distance you are. If you are sitting within a half mile of Semperfi and Mason Pro here, who have thousands of reviews, and you're going to try to open a new location, you just made that mountain to climb a whole lot taller. Okay, so I want that to sink in for a minute, because this is why this is so important. That doesn't mean we don't want to be in this market. It just means that we want to be smart about who we're next to, because if we show up in the top 3 results and we have, let's say, 10 or 20 reviews, and Semperfi's got 8,200 with a 4.8 rating, and Mason Pro's got 1,000 with a 4.9 rating, most likely we're not going to get chosen. So even if you rank well, you're not going to convert very well. And there's an important distinction there, because I think a lot of times marketing companies, including ourselves, we talk about rankings, which is important. It's like the chicken before the egg, right? You got to rank before you get calls. But once you rank, we have to be able to get conversions. So we want to speed up this process as much as possible, so that way you can start getting new leads and new customers quickly and start getting a return on your investment. Then what you want to do, once you know the competitive landscape, is you want to, again, remember where that map pin is. And then you just want to type in the city and state on Google Maps here. And what you'll notice is this red dotted map on the screen. And the red dotted map shows you Google's definition of your city. I actually just had a conversation with a contractor yesterday who's up in Anthem, which is, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes north of Phoenix. His U.S. Postal Service address says he's in Phoenix, but he's nowhere near what's considered the city of Phoenix. We've had this conversation with multiple clients. So it's really important to make sure that you are within the city limits, because one of the top 10 ranking factors that we've seen for Google Business Profiles is, are you within the city limits? So this is why this stuff is so important. And that's why we do this in this order, because we want to find an address. We want to see the competitive landscape, because if that address is in a really bad spot we have way too many big competitors right there, let's just move on. We don't even need to do this step. But if it's not, this is the next step. Make sure that map pin is inside the city limits. So we're working with the algorithm instead of against it. And if you do this right, the question to ask, and we get this question quite a bit, is, can I rank more than one listing in different cities? And obviously, I wouldn't be putting on this webinar if that was not true. So this is actually the company that I used to work at, who is still a client of ours in Wisconsin. This is the second location that we set up. I begged to do this while I was there. He didn't allow me to do it until until he was my client, but we ended up doing it anyways. And we were able to rank in a city about 15 miles south of our existing location. And that's important because this market was one I really wanted to get into. And it was just really hard for us to get into there without being able to spend a lot on paid ads and mailers and try to really brand in that market. Because we had a great presence in our primary market. And this was our way of expanding south. So that way we could get closer to Milwaukee, but not be in Milwaukee. This is their primary listing, which is kind of cut off by Lake Michigan. But you can see you can rank both listings very well if done right. A couple more examples, because I know we got some multi-trade companies in here. This company actually has 3 listings. They're in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. This is, can't remember if Glenpool's south, or I think it's south of Tulsa, but this is one of their main listings for AC repair. This is their listing that is in Tulsa. And you can see what happens when there's more competitive, like Tulsa's a bigger city. There's more competitive, there's more competition. I can't talk. There's more competition in that area. So it's a little harder to expand the visibility, but we're still able to get, what is that? 3, 4.5, 6, 9, 10.5, almost 12 miles radius in any direction. So, because each of these map pins is about 1.5 miles apart. And then this is their 3rd listing, their newest listing, smaller town. So we're able to rank further. And you can see the smaller town, there's not as much competition. So we're able to rank for a much wider service area there. Now for the multi-trade companies, and I also want to kind of highlight what it looks like in a very competitive market. This is Dallas. I don't know exactly if this is the listing in Dallas because I didn't notate that, but their primary category on this listing is plumber. So that's what the rankings I'm showing. You can see as you get into the heart of Dallas, you got guys like Berkey's and Milestone and some of these companies that are literally $150, $200 million. It becomes very difficult to rank up further away, but they still have a nice, I would say about 6 to 8 mile radius in a very populated area where they rank very well. This is their 2nd listing. This one is an air conditioning listing outside of Dallas Metro. This one is also an air conditioning listing. This one, I believe, is south of Dallas. And then they have another plumbing listing that is near Dallas as well. So they have 2 plumbing listings and 2 air conditioning listings. So yes, it is absolutely possible to do this and do it well, but there are things, there are a lot of common mistakes that people make. And this is something that as we go through these, feel free to ask questions because there's probably going to be some questions on this because these are common mistakes, not only that contractors make, a lot of these mistakes marketing companies make as well because they're not detailed or not thorough enough on the secondary listings. They give all of the attention to the primary listing. The second listing just kind of sits there and it just kind of does what it does. If it gets calls, great. If it doesn't, great. Nothing really happens. And nobody strategizes with you to tell you these are the things that will actually make that listing pop. So number 1, if you are multi-trade, which several of you said that you were, all listings have the same primary category. Now, if you're let's say you're an HVAC and plumbing company, because that's probably the most common example that we see, and HVAC is 90% of your business and you're just getting plumbing off the ground, I wouldn't recommend having a listing that focuses on plumbing yet. But if it's more like 25 to 30% plumbing and you really want to grow that, then you need a dedicated listing for that trade. And the reason is simple. The number 1 ranking factor, and this is very prevalent, so feel free to quote me, source me, look it up online, is your primary category. So the category that you choose, and you can only choose one. So you're either choosing HVAC contractor, air conditioning repair service, or what have you, or you're choosing plumber, or you're choosing electrician, or you're choosing, like someone mentioned, they did generator shop as a primary category. So it's super important that you know your business, what you want, what your goals are, so that way you can set this up and make sure it makes sense for you. Along with that, so when you set up multiple listings, I mentioned this just a little bit earlier, but you want a landing page URL that matches the primary category and city. So what is the landing page URL? So every Google business profile gets one website link to connect to it. Now there is a second link if you have online booking, but that one really isn't relevant to what we're talking about here. So what does this mean? So let's say, I'll use Arizona as an example. Let's say I have an HVAC, plumbing, and electrical company, and I serve Mesa, Gilbert, and Scottsdale. In Mesa, let's say I want to focus on air conditioning just because that's always been my primary there. So I need to have a page that focuses on air conditioning repair and Mesa. So it needs to be optimized for that because that's what Google's scraping to get information on your listing. Now, let's say I do plumbing in Scottsdale. Same thing. I need to have a page talking about the plumbing services I offer in Scottsdale and connect that to that Scottsdale listing. And then for, I think I said Gilbert as the other one. If that was my electrical listing, I would put electrician as the primary category, and I would tie that landing page to an electrical page focused on Gilbert. So if you're thinking through this and you don't have those pages set up, that is something I would write down that you need to do right away after this call, is get with your marketing company or write the page yourself or whatever you want to do, but get that page created. And this is also where you want to have rank tracking in place. So that way, once I make those changes, I can do it before, and I can also see the ranking benefits after. So feel free, again, put the questions down here. If Nadine doesn't know the answer, I will answer those questions as we get towards the end. This is another massive, I can't understate this, massive mistake that people make. And what I mean by review requests are manual is contractors tell us, well, I'll just manually swap the link out on Pulse M, Podium, Marketing Reputation Pro, or whatever Service Titan calls it these days. Or they just manually send out the link and they decide that I'm going to do this one for a month, and then I'm going to do this one for a month, and this one for a month. The problem is Google wants to not only see what's a term that's called review velocity, meaning how quickly we can get reviews. They want to see consistency in all of your listings. So how do we overcome that? Because it's very difficult to overcome something like that, especially if we're doing it manually. And then the other problem that happens is, and I've seen this a lot, is someone's, I'll change it back in a month, and they set a calendar reminder, and then of course they're busy and they forget, is listings don't get reviews for 2, 3, 4 months. So even if they ranked well, that conversion factor of consistently getting those reviews falls by the wayside. So reviews become even more important than they already are if you have multiple trades. And these are the types of conversations we have with contractors a lot, because we try not to overstep, but you can automate a lot of this process. And I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit. Now, this is another mistake. This isn't a real big one because GBP posts don't have much of a ranking benefit. But if the example I gave where we have 3 trades in 3 different cities, we want to make sure that our content matches the primary category. So my electrical listing should only have posts about electrical services in that area. Plumbing should only have plumbing. HVAC should only have HVAC. So if whoever's doing your Google Business profile posts and adding photos, it needs to make sure that you have a distinction between those listings. All of the content on the electrical listing, including the reviews, should be electrical. Everything on plumbing should be plumbing. Everything on HVAC should be HVAC. And that is the best way to give Google as much relevance as possible. And that's why we're able to get the results that we showed you a couple slides before this. This is another huge mistake. Secondary listings are not treated like primary listings. So what do I mean by that? And what I mean is usually the primary listing where you've been in business for a while has a ton of citations, directories, business profiles, social media profiles connected to it. But when we create a second listing, we don't do any of that. And that's very typical because, one, it's a lot of tedious, monotonous work. It's not that much fun to do. And we don't know which listings are important. So it's just something that falls by the wayside and doesn't get done. And what happens with that is we don't get those backlinks, and Google sources a lot of different places on the internet. And if we don't have the BBB listing or the Yelp listing that says, hey, we literally do business here and here's the information, Google's going to not trust your information as much, which means lower rankings. So it's really important. I will give you guys a list here shortly of some of the best citations and directories to make sure that you have. So you will get an entire list that you can download here shortly. This is another big one. I mentioned that we had a plumbing client. It's not this client that had 5 SAB listings. So I'm going to talk about SAB listings for just a minute here. SAB listings are the ones where you use your home address and then you hide the address. Now, if you have a home address, you have to hide the address. But and this is why we always focus on physical offices as the primary, because this client, we actually did this before they even signed up for us. They had 2 SAB listings. It was their home and their technician's home. And you can kind of see down in this corner here, this is where the technician's home was, I believe. And this was their primary home. So they ranked okay. And they're right outside of Philadelphia. But literally before they even signed the agreement, I told them I need at least one of these listings to have an office. And we do tell clients that often because SAB listings do not rank very well. It's a lot more difficult. And a lot of people are like, I don't know why I can't get more business. I'm better than so-and-so company down the street, but they have an office and you don't. For whatever reason, Google's algorithm prefers, and it's probably just because it's a lot easier to spam home addresses, they prefer physical offices, brick and mortar. So what we did is we told them, before we start working together, you need to get at least one office. So they did that. We got it re-verified. And literally, you can see the dates on this 2 days apart. We hadn't even onboarded them or done any optimization yet. And you can see the jump in their rankings just by doing this one step. So the plea that I'm making is don't use a home address because it doesn't work as well. And you're going to limit the potential you have for that listing. And this is the last big mistake that I see is when people have come to us and they have multiple listings, they have the same phone number on every single listing. And the problem with that is, just like you guys, anything in business, you can't track and measure how well or not well those listings are doing. We even have a lot of people come to us with one listing that has the same phone number on their Google business profile and on their website. And that's a big no-no because you don't understand how well or not well your marketing is working. So this is setting you back from a business owner or manager perspective where you just can't make proper decisions because you're flying blind. So having call tracking set up, which a lot of the FSM, field service management softwares, have that. Otherwise, you can look into solutions like CallRail. CallRail is very cost effective. It's very easy to set up and help you with this. So we talked about reviews and how important they are. So now I want to talk a little bit more in depth about the different things you should take into consideration when it comes to getting reviews. So I shared the screenshots of professional services and their multiple listings, and then the company in Tulsa that has multiple listings. Now, their primary business is HVAC. So what we do for them is we rotate the reviews. And we do it, we created a quick Google script. You can probably have ChatGPT create this for you now. We didn't back in the day, but you can probably ask it to create this for you if you want. And what happens is it works like this. So let's say we have 10 jobs for the day. Job 1 the review link goes to listing 1. Job 2 goes to listing 2. Job 3, listing 1. Job 4, listing 2, and so on. So we just rotate those every other job. Or if you have 3 listings, every 3rd job, and so on. Now, where it gets a little more delicate and intricate is when you have multiple trades and you have to match up the job type to the listing review link. Okay, so now there are ways to do this inside of Zapier using a filter step. So filter by Zapier, if you guys are familiar with that. If not, I don't know if you guys know this. I have another company called Trade Automation Pros that I run with Tersh Blissett. He's the co-host with me at Service Business Mastery. We have an entire course and community on how to build automation like the ones I'm talking about. And we can also do them for you if you want and you're not a digital marketing client of ours. So if you need that information, just drop it in the comments or reach out to me directly and I'll get you the link to that. But how it works is, so every job that gets completed, we put it through a filter step. And that filter step is looking for the job type that we ran. So if we ran an electrical job, we're going to divert and create a pathway to send the electrical review link. Plumbing, we send the plumbing, HVAC, and so on. So it's a little more intricate as far as the setup, but once it's set up, it just runs and automatically sends the right review list, the right review links to the right listings. And that way, as I mentioned, all of the content that's relevant to that primary category stays with that listing. So that way we don't have plumbing reviews mixed in with electrical listing and so on. Now I mentioned the unique citations for each listing because this is great for your website because now we're going to have multiple backlinks. A backlink is essentially another website pointed back to yours. So these create additional backlinks for your website, which helps with your authority, but it also is going to help create that listing and some authority within that listing. So I mentioned that if you guys want to download this right here, and if you're on a mobile device and can't download it right now, reach out to my team or drop it in the comments and Nadine will get that information to you. But this is an entire list of the main citations. We have hyper local ones. I think we have some industry specific ones on there. So it's really detailed as far as which listings that you should create. Now, some of those are also paid ones like Chamber of Commerce or the Ductless Directory, things like that, where you might have to pay a small fee annually or per month to have a subscription, but that it's worth it because those essentially what we're telling Google is, yes, we operate in this market and yes, we are this type of company. And all of these other places say that we are this type of company. All right. We're doing good on time here. We are close to done. I think we'll actually hit an hour. So appreciate, we've had 70 to 80 people on live here. So stick with me just for a couple more minutes and then we'll get to questions and answers. So I'm going to give you some bonus tactics when you get these listings set up that will help you rank them more effectively and faster. So we've obviously talked about reviews a lot, but there are some strategies that we employ when clients come to us and we set up a new listing in order to jumpstart that listing. And doing a mass outbound review campaign to our old existing customers that have already been served by us and love us, asking them to leave us a review on our new listing has worked really well. And so the screenshots you're seeing below, this was the first time I went and did this and I actually tracked the results. We set up the listing. You can see they didn't rank very well right outside of Lexington, Kentucky. We started this review campaign. I think they had about 1,500 customers in their database. And we dripped out about 20 or 25 requests an hour for 2.5 weeks. And we only did it for like 4 to 6 hours a day. And what we're able to do within, I don't know, what is this, about 5-6 weeks, we're able to really drive a lot of reviews. And even more importantly, and this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot, there was a Google leak last year that shared a lot of information about what Google looks for and how it ranks content and businesses. And it has to do with people touching your listing. And try not to sound inappropriate when I say that, but they're clicking on your listing, they're interacting with it, they're typing things in there that have to do with your listing. And that shows Google that you're an important business and people actually want to look for you. So getting them to click on your review link, type reviews, and getting this some initial wins here really helps set us up so that way we can increase our rankings pretty quickly. And then also, we talked about conversion of reviews. By having, I think we got about 28 or 30 reviews right off the jump for these guys, that gives us an opportunity to get new business. Because if we rank this business and they have 5 reviews, you guys have seen those listings online. My guess is you did not hire them unless you already knew who they were. We typically will look at a listing, go to the website, make sure they're legit, come back, read the reviews top to bottom, just to see if there's what the 1 stars will look like and what the 5 stars look like before we make a decision. So we want to have that content on our listing. And now I mentioned interacting with the listing. I'll call this the one hack. It is completely legal and ethical. There's no issues with it, but just have your team, and you can even do this if you just have one listing today and you want to try to boost your visibility, have your team every single day they drive to work, even if they know how to get to the office, just ask them every time you go and just type the office address in and use Google Maps to go to your listing. And what that does is you're going to get credit for what's known in your Google Business Profile Performance Insights as driving directions. Now, we know we don't necessarily want a lot of customers coming to your office because most of you guys are service businesses. But what this does is, again, people are clicking, interacting, and Google's seeing traffic. So this is kind of a real a way that not enough people use, but you can boost your visibility just by doing this, because now Google's like, man, there's people coming to the office every day. So it's a real easy, effective way. It doesn't cost any money, doesn't cost any extra time except for just clicking the work address on the Google Maps app and driving to the office. And you can do this with the second listing or third, whatever you want to do. You can have someone do this pretty easily. So your service area is a map, and right now your competitors are posting pins in your turf, but you're about to turn those pins into customers with more listings and more leads. And yes, more of the business you've been losing, because when you set up and manage your Google business profiles the right way, the only thing more powerful than your proximity is your presence in that market. Now, there's a bunch of you on here. There's a bunch that are going to watch the replay. This is what we do for clients, and we're very good at it. We're essentially, and that's why I think we had over 200 people register. We are looked at as the Google Business Profile experts for the trades. So if any of this resonated with you and you don't want to do this yourself, book a call with my team. They will help you with all of the things we talked about in here, the address, the finding the location. They'll help you with all of that stuff. And if you sign up with us, we also help you with the video verification, the Google support ticketing system, all of the painful things that you guys don't want to deal with. So feel free to use this link, or if you're on a mobile device and you just want to type it in or copy it, it's down in the bottom below. And with that, I'm going to bring my StreamYard thing over so we can start going through some Q&A. All right, Nadine, what do we got? I'll wait for you, because otherwise I'll start going through here and probably we'll trip on each other. All right, we're going to start with John's question regarding the heat maps. Oh, I did not give you guys tools for the heat maps. So before I answer your question, I'll give you some tools. So Local Falcon, Local Viking, SEMrush has a local rank tracker, Bright Local, GMB Crush, and there's ones that we use, Local Brand Manager and Places Scout. Places Scout's probably a little too much for what you guys need as far as expenses and the data we get, but there's several of them. Just if you didn't write those down or don't want to remember, just go to Google and type in local Google Maps heat map tracking tools, something to that effect, and you'll be able to get a list. There's a ton of them. So which keywords are the green dots for? So John, the keywords that I shared, it was on the left-hand side, but I did go through them pretty quickly. For the HVAC companies, there's AC repair. And then I did a different, the last company that had 4 listings, it was plumber as the primary key term and AC repair. So typically when we measure keywords, we obviously want to rank for longer tail keywords that have 4, 5, 6 words to them. But when it comes to Google Maps, most people are typing in something real quick, like a plumber near me. We want to rank for those key terms because those are going to get the most volume. Good question. All right. Nadine, I'm going to start going through a few of these because I don't want to waste too much time. So I'm going to go backwards order here. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So question from Ben. How does a legit operator differentiate themselves from a scammer when opening new locations? From an ethical standpoint, how is this different? What line shouldn't be crossed if you're trying to grow fast but stay clean? It's a good question, Ben. So we've had some conversations with clients who they understand that this process can work. And if you want to do it legitimately, that office space that you get, have someone work there. Have maybe maybe someone that's a little bit more remote or someone that doesn't want to commute, work there from the office. Because that is the legitimate way to do it. Now, a lot of our clients that set up multiple listings, they probably go to that office once or twice a week just to check mail and things like that. But you can do it that way. Now, your competitors, especially private equity, we had this situation with a client in Texas recently. Somebody bought up a bunch of companies in the Dallas, Fort Worth metro area, and they kept the listings, but they knew that they weren't actually operating out of them because they don't even have the leases anymore. If you have proof of that, you can go and try to report those companies to Google with pictures and proof that they're no longer actually at that location. But you're at the mercy of Google's support ticketing system, and spam fighting, which this would be considered spam fighting, is a lot harder to get Google to close listings down. So it's kind of, what do you want to spend your time on? But if you wanted to do this legitimately and have it where it's like you felt really good about it, just have somebody work in that office, have their laptop or a computer set up in there and just have them work out of there. That would be the legitimate way to do it. Aaron, I didn't actually go over the how far apart from each GBP listing because it depends. As you saw in some of those heat maps, the more rural companies, they ranked for a much wider, bigger service area. So with that being said, if you rank for a really wide service area, you could be 10 miles, it could be 12. In a competitive market, typically it's 5 to 8, but you want to know how you rank first before you make that decision. And then you also want to make sure, let's say you think you rank okay, there's metrics inside of these tools that some are called visibility score, some are called share of local voice, or SOLV. And what those will help you determine is, are you one of the highest ranking companies for your keywords in your market? If you're not, get there first before you expand, because otherwise you're just diluting your reviews and you're trying to go laterally versus deep when it comes to growth. So there's a few things I would make sure that you know how you rank and the visibility score that you have before you make that decision. Question from Travis. I want to get additional locations on Google, but you verified I would need actual physical addresses to do that, correct? So let me be really clear with this. You do not need physical office addresses to make this work. However, you will have a much better time, an easier time ranking with a physical office than an SAB listing. And something I don't think I mentioned, service area business listings or home addresses get suspended at a far greater rate than physical offices. So there's just a lot more complications. That's why our recommendation is to just get a physical office. It will save you a lot of time and headache in the future. Good question. Natalia mentioned, you mentioned not copying post for your second location. Is it bad to repost photos for just the primary location? So yeah, there's no issues reposting that stuff. Now, if you guys really want to have great photos on your listing, there is a tool that you can use for free. It's called Google Cloud Vision AI. You can put your photos in there and actually see what Google reads from that photo without any context. So that way, if we show an electrical panel, it should pick up that there's electrical wiring and things like that in there. And we've done that on some other webinars where we've shared that information. But with AI getting smarter and these large language models really learning what these companies do, the more content, the more pictures, images, things like that, or videos that you can put on there that says this is what we do and this is where we do it, the better off you'll be. But photos you can repost, just don't repost them a ton. I would cycle through maybe every 3 months or so. So that way it's not like the same photo shows up a bunch of times. Zach asked, hey, we're getting a virtual office location, but it's a physical location on the 11th floor. We can be on the directory in the lobby and they use an office for our video verification. Is this okay still? We are an expensive city and offices are expensive. So I'd have to know a little bit more, Zach, because is it a shared office space? Like, can you use it to verification and then somebody else can use it for verification? What I would probably the best way to do this is go to Google, open a search tab, type in the address and see what companies are listed. If there are a bunch of companies listed with the same address, that would be a no-no for me. Now, if it's a virtual office like a Regis building, which are all over the US, they still have dedicated offices within there. And typically the rates are a little bit better because there's a lot more shared working space there. So you can get like Who Hire, who we use for hiring, they're in a Regis building, but they actually have a physical office that is theirs that they work out of. The one thing that you might run into being on the 11th floor is when you do video verification, you get about 2 minutes from being outside showing the the signs, the road signs, the building, your truck in front, to get to the 11th floor in your office. We've had some client in Texas that struggled with this a little bit because the file size of the video was too big and Google kept rejecting it. So some of that's a little challenging, but Google, I know they've made some improvements to their video verification, so you might be okay. But just keep that in mind, as you might have to do it a few times to get it to work, and you may have to walk extremely briskly or run to get to that office building. Cool. I think I saw a few other questions. Nadine, was there any other questions that I missed? I'll answer Justin's while you're looking for those. My marketing company currently has my website focused on one town, and they handle my current GBP. If I create a second one, would that create any conflict? No. I would just make sure that they have a plan to add a website page that focuses on whatever that primary category is going to be, Justin, and that city. So if that content's not already built on the site, make sure you build that out. And while you're at it, this has nothing to do with Google Business Profiles, but your websites for service area businesses, you really should have a location page for every city anyways. And if you don't, that's something you should talk to them about, because that's something we build from the jump, because it is that important to rank for those near me type searches, is to have those hyperlocal pages. Okay, Zach said there's 3 independent mortgage brokers are present in the building. Zach, if you want to message me separately, I'm happy to look up that address for you and just give some insight in what I see. So feel free to send that my way. You can do it through Facebook Messenger or email. Good question, Travis. I get this question a lot. The question is, I partner with other trades. With their approval, how bad would it be to use one of their locations in a different town if I'm able to put a desk and some signage up for proof of office in their building? So you'll have to do a couple things, and that's why that video verification checklist, check that over, because you will need a utility bill with that address and your name on it. So keep that in mind. Now, if you can set that up and maybe they can sublet a certain section and create an office with and have a mailbox in front, then I would say yes, you could do that. But just keep that in mind. You're going to need some sort of utility bill for internet or gas or electric or anything like that. That's part of that video verification checklist. Cool. I think we got most of the questions. There will be a replay that goes out. So really appreciate you guys on this webinar. I appreciate we had over 200 people sign up for this. So thank you very much for hanging out with us. And if there's any questions I missed, I will answer those directly, and I'll try to find your email and answer them directly for you. Thank you, guys.